forced male protagonist. Wow, you can tell it's 2016. I am Couch Scoop. We're going to be looking at Watch Dogs 2 from that year against Cyberpunk, which technically came out in 2020, if you can call it that. You'll be pleased to hear I'm going to stay away from the whole politics thing on this one. Oh, fuck. That does remind me, my Wolfenstein 2 Ultra Settings PC re-review for 2023 could do with some love. That game blew my socks off on those settings, and it's well worth the revisit and sitting there on Game Pass. Talking of Game Pass, I'm obviously currently rinsing it, and there's the Ubisoft tab, and if you've got a PC you get to try some of these games that were way too expensive on launch and came out at a very busy time of year. Did own this on the PlayStation 4, thank you Nicholas. Looked at it very briefly, but of course big open world games out of the time. You've got GTA, was pretty young. You had stuff like Sleeping Dogs knocking around, and if you're like me, you've probably rinsed all of your open world games. I'm talking all of the Assassin's Creeds, I'm talking Cyberpunk, and that's what happened about halfway through this review, that I thought this is kind of better in Cyberpunk in areas, particularly against the year it came out, and it's a bit of the middle child. I don't really want to talk about it or show that original Watch Dogs trailer because it was one of the biggest scandals of that decade. They dressed it up so bad, and when it came out, obviously huge disappointments. This is the second one, and there is a third which is called Legion, which I think is set in London. It's a pig on the front cover. Doesn't sell too well in the Middle East for some reason. I'm going to touch first off on that locked view of Underdog, I'm going to call it. It feels very unnatural now. Modern open world games or even driving games, they have an option to sort of switch that out. You're really far back in all of the cars. It does change up when you get off, and the camera is actually very reactive when you're walking around. But that initially shocked me. One of the more enjoyable things about playing games that's got unlicensed cars in it is seeing the ideas and the stuff they come up with, and this is no exception to that rule. I was very impressed, A, with the car variety, and B, the designs that they actually came up with, and this game's performance. We're on high 1080 at 60 frames per second. It dips at crossroads and things, but the game performed pretty damn well. Goddamn hide in car prompt only goes when you hide in the car. I apologise about that now. Points scored to Underdog here. The NPCs will proactively get involved with you stealing their stuff, just like on GTA. Very impressive, and this was a genuine accident. The game does not tell you what gun you have equipped. You have an electric gun. I would never do that on purpose. It also beats Cyberpunk on just general traversal as you're running around. Cyberpunk's got like a pull-up system, like a almost double jump if you're against a wall. This has got the trigger held down like an Assassin's Creed game. It all feels very fluid. You immediately get into Ubisoft's well-established system reputation on that front, unlike the CDPRs. Just a very quick slow pan there. Do want to talk about its San Francisco representation. Pretty impeccable. A little bit tidier for some reason than San Francisco is now, though. Not as much fentanyl around. Now, there's one sort of little remote control autonomous vehicle section in Cyberpunk right at the beginning. I'm not going back through to get you footage of that. All of you will remember it, and it was really downplayed towards the rest of the game. I thought that gadget was going to be yours going forward, but it was a one-off, and it broke my heart a bit. Imagine being the designer of this game, and your boss comes in at this bit, looks over your shoulder and goes, "How's that new AAA game going?" And it's this bit.
I doubt it, but...
Hey, you there!
It's surprisingly well done because you can upgrade this thing and it sort of runs around the security guards' feet. They can and can't see it. You can get out of their views really quickly. Play a brilliant game of cat and mouse, but when you get caught, you genuinely get caught.
Yeah. So, I owe you a check. There's an upfront donation.
Pretty sure you can genuinely cheat with it as well by getting over walls that should really require a bit more hacking, but once you're in these little compounds, the panic and confusion you can cause because the upgrades involve you being able to operate vehicles, make them go forward. Why couldn't I go under that trailer? Cyberpunk, you missed a massive trick here. It would have been really good to do this to enemy bases, soften them up before going in with the big guns.
What?
Talking of big guns, it's alright, I'm not going to go to a segue like that. I just wanted to mention it's got a very good cover system, reminiscent of Splinter Cells. Can you believe that? Really slick, you know exactly where it starts and stops. And getting some genuinely cool weaponry for free off your downed enemies is pretty amazing. I was not disappointed with the intimacy of the bullet and close quarters combat on this game.
Powering up. System check.
So it's briefly over the campaign and mission structure. Now Cyberpunk 2077 and CDPR generally has some good writers on board. Half of them are left now because of the debacle with the release of Cyberpunk. But Underdogs 2 is nowhere near the substance you see in the character development and relationships that are in Cyberpunk. Now this brings me on to just how annoying everybody is. They timed it with the sort of birth of the social media revolution. 2016, everyone was convinced that influencers were going to rule the world. They technically are. Nothing could have prepared me for the vacuous, self-centered attitude of these Muppets. These helicopter lights, these shadows, this chase, this does not look like a PlayStation 4 game. I think we're all in agreement of that. Please like and subscribe.
We're gonna mess with the cops.
Okay, this brings me on to minor futures, car variety, and wet look roads. We're going to do all three of them in a couple of clips. Now, when I say minor future, I'm talking about these games being just slightly ahead of where we are now. So with this, all they've really bothered with is put a few plasma screens on walls. But some of the car designs and some of the infrastructures and buildings do point to a certain amount of futurism. Cyberpunk's obviously got that vehicle redesign and variety stuff. The reflections, again, it's further ahead in game development, so we see better graphics. That was also running on a PlayStation 5, so a bit of a non-comprehensible category, that one. Alright, we're going to go to that combat in a bit more detail. Now, I was surprised with the amount of actual weaponry, military weaponry, that's available to you in Watch Dogs 2. I thought it was all just going to be tasers and batons, but you have access to some majorly cool weapons, especially early if you take them off the enemies. And this bulletproof vest, that was the one time that damn cover system didn't work. Blatant difference here, with one being a third and the other being a first person shooter, and that pushes on to why that cover mechanic feels better. Because you have that surrounded look, you feel a lot more secure, you understand what's happening around you to a certain extent a little bit better. Okay, so hacking and in-car hacking. Cyberpunk wasn't even competing in this category 6 months ago. They only implemented hacking from your vehicle extremely recently, and before that all you could really do was give someone a headache. You couldn't send them psycho or get them to unlock something. It was very simple stuff, and again, a little bit annoyed with the depth on that front, but things have been improved on Cyberpunk's UI. I think what a lot of it is that Cyberpunk focuses on the individual when it comes to a lot of the hacking. With Underdogs, you can focus on their devices or on the vehicle or even inanimate objects. Put a car in reverse that you're being chased by. When the gangs get involved, they have no rules, and you can really start making the city attack them. It's way too much fun, and a lot more fun than meddling around with this stuff in Cyberpunk. I do want to keep complimenting the game on some of this cool car design and its night and morning shadow effects. Even though San Francisco's not that massive, they do quite well with giving you areas that are pretty damn green. There's an immensely built up section and that huge bridge is in there. So the reflections and a lot of this high texture is pretty cool, but then again, this game is 7 years old. Having said that, here it is having an absolute nightmare at a junction section. There's some beef somewhere, someone's got hit, and it really just went down to about 45 frames per second. I imagine this is something to do with my PC not being powerful enough to run it on the settings I've got it on, but it was kind of the inconsistencies in and around the city that made me feel a bit neglected on a frame rate front. There is a patch for this, a detailed texture pack, a little bit like the Fallout 4 one, but it's got a percentage on it, and you can just say, okay, give me 50% of some of that detail. I had to put it down to 25 because it just could not handle any of it. I do want to show you that there is some rain, not nearly enough of it, no real thunderstorms or any wind mechanics on those trees. Everything's a little bit stagnant on that front, but Cyberpunk hasn't rained on me since the Umbrella update, so they're both on a par with this one.
Marcus, I got Jimmy out safe.
Thanks, Miranda.
Now let's talk about the police in Underdogs 2, and they are the most OP thing in the whole game. They're all like the T-1000 from Terminator 2. They just are relentless. There's too many of them. Check out the minimap. Every corner you go around, there's another policeman. You are just in panic trying to get away from these individuals. The only way I could get a car was to get it to drive up the hill remotely, get it away from them, and then commandeer that. They're pretty fast. If you don't have the speed, they will ram the crap out of you. Though there is an outstanding police detection in Cyberpunk now, and they pursue and they fire from vehicles, it's a huge jump for that game. They are still well easy to evade. All you need is a straight bit of road, you're done, you're out. The cooldown time is too short. The cooldown time with underdogs is too long.
Okay, gang, I'm about to sneak inside New Dawn's temple.
No quads in Cyberpunk. That, again, broke my heart a little bit. There's no reason we shouldn't have one. Had motorbikes in, they have off-road vehicles in, and they have a huge area to actually abuse these things in.
It's not that kind of temple, Wrench.
I would say they're both on a par. I do like the Pacifica outskirts on Cyberpunk. They give the game another vibe, and they haven't half-assed a lot of this vegetation and stuff to see out here.
What do you think you're doing? Beat it.
This one's a low blow, but Underdogs kind of had its mission difficulty sorted in its first year of launch, and that's still predominantly present. It's a very tight structure. It's really cool. The routes of the people that are walking around, everything interlocks. It's very difficult as well. It's kind of an insta-death. If you get discovered, you'll just get bullets piled into you. I do like the risk against completing these missions and dying halfway through them and having to do them again. You did not see much of that at the launch of Cyberpunk, and there's still a few quests and quest missions that need fixing now.
Push those people back! Control, we have a possible target.
I do very much like this game, and I feel it does have middle child syndrome, a little bit like the Lara Croft we just looked at, and I think that the Game Pass price and the PC top specs is really attractive. And if you're like me and you've exhausted every sandbox game that you own, and you're waiting for GTA 6, this is perfect if you've never looked at it, and it doesn't cost anything, I don't think, off the shelf. Legion is another kettle of fish, and I will get to it. One of the last things is night driving, and how amazing Night City is. You've either literally just missed the rain by seconds because you need to put a video out about it, or you're just reveling in these beautiful ray trace reflections. I mean, it was made nearly half a decade after Underdogs, but I will say hand on heart that the Ubisoft game really gave this a run for its money and scored a hell of a lot better against it than I initially thought. And remember, I'm scoring Cyberpunk with all of its 3-year patch updates, inclusivity with the police system, firing from vehicles, that sort of stuff. You need to take out an actual bank loan to buy the drone in this game. And 2016 also makes me laugh because there was a big drone obsession. He stares at this thing for about 15 minutes like it's some sort of alien craft. I was, of course, Couch Coop, and I hope you enjoyed that rather higgledy comparison. I doubt you've seen that anywhere else on the internet. It's probably a good reason for that. I will, of course, see you down there.
Judgment.